Hey everyone, we just wanted to start this episode by saying we know that you all appreciate when we give you a little heads up on if there's going to need to be a tissue warning. So we will just say that none of us got through this episode without crying. So take that as your warning. You may want to have tissues handy as you listen to this episode.
And then we also just want to give a trigger warning for anyone who's listening. There are some discussions about situations in regards to Odin and some interactions with humans and with other dogs. So we want to make sure we give a trigger warning to anyone who might have some sensitivities around that. Please listen to the episode and we hope you enjoy. Welcome to Sometimes There's Side Eye, a podcast about two friends having real and unfiltered conversations about dogs and people. Listen as we talk about our lives with dogs, training, behavior, share some laughs, and a whole lot of banter. I'm Heather.
And I'm Christy.
And
What are we talking about today?
Well, today we have a special guest and we're super excited.
We are.
Our special guest today is Monica Adelsteinson, and she is the owner and photographer of Pup and Me Photo. And we are so excited to have Monica here. She's also a very dear friend of ours. Welcome, Monica.
I'm so excited. Thank you.
Yeah.
We both know Monica for several years now.
Apparently 7 years.
7 years now.
7 years ago today.
Oh.
And we know Monica through volunteering through a couple different organizations. And so we're excited to have you here today. And of course, you're a professional photographer, so that's not at all what we're going to talk about today.
Of course not.
No, why would we do that? That makes so much sense.
No.
But Monica has this really unique story about her previous rescue dog that we just thought was really important to kind of go through, and living with a dog like Odin. So Odin was your last dog. And so kind of want to go through that story. But first, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what dogs you live with now?
Yes, yeah. So right now, we live in Phoenix, Arizona, and we live with Sasha. She is about 4 years old, and we adopted her from Maricopa County Animal Care and Control. And I also live with my partner, Evan. And yeah, it's a good dynamic right now. I'm very happy with just our one dog and taking it slow.
Is
What's
Sasha
one of your favorite things about Sasha?
Oh my gosh, there's so many favorite things about Sasha. I think, dang, that's a really hard question because I feel
she's
like
pretty amazing.
She's so amazing. My goodness, I think one of the biggest qualities I think a lot of people notice right away with her is her ability to like seek people out that need calmness, and she'll just like plop herself on whoever needs the chill. You know what I mean? And like, I feel like it's a rare quality in dogs. I haven't experienced that. My previous dogs have always been kind of like chaos. They weren't paying attention. They weren't intuitive with people's feelings. Even like Sasha with strangers. Our mutual friend Cindy came over for the first time, and I think that was her first time meeting Sasha. Sasha just immediately plopped herself on Cindy. So she just knows.
Have you owned Sasha 4 years, or she's 4 years old? Because I think that
oh so sorry. So we've had her for 4 years, and she is
I want to say 7-ish.
Yeah, right around there. Yeah. I try not to think about the age numbers. I'm like
totally get it.
Yeah.
It is so special having a dog like that. My first pit bull, Layla, was like that. She just would find the person and she would just plop on their lap and she was like, okay, you're mine. It's just the sweetest little endearing quality. So that's amazing. Yeah. And Sasha's your only dog.
Yes. Yeah, we are only dog household forever and always.
Yeah, you guys love one at a time. It's so cool. Everyone has their own thing, and you guys are one at a time, which is very cool because it gives a lot of opportunity for dogs that maybe aren't as social with other dogs, an amazing home to land in. So I love that.
Yeah.
Well, there are always dogs looking for only dog homes.
For sure.
Right? They're hard to place. And a lot of people, I don't think about that when they're going to adopt. They think
Like
We've
me.
had this conversation. Yeah, right. Where someone like me, I don't particularly need a dog, social dog.
Mm-hmm.
And just keeping that in mind, right? Like really thinking about your needs. Do I need this? Could I give a dog a home that, it's harder to place?
Mm-hmm.
Always something to keep in mind.
Yeah, because when you were really thinking, so everybody knows Sasha was actually in foster with a good friend of ours, and we all fell in love with her at the shelter. And we were like, oh my gosh, she has to get out. This dog is amazing. And luckily, one of our friends, Christina, was like, oh, I'll foster her. She spent a lot of time getting Sasha healthy because she had several health issues going on. At the time, Odin was still alive. I believe Christina had her for about a year in foster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like
And
a little
so
over a year.
during that time, Sasha was living with was social with some of her other dogs, but really it was determined that she would prefer to be an only dog. It just, I mean, the way it all kind of came together was very sweet, but we're not really here to talk about Sasha.
I know.
So
Off
although
the
we
rails
could,
already.
yeah, although we could talk about Sasha
We
forever.
could talk
We're
about
gonna
it
do a
forever.
follow-up episode about Sasha.
Just
Yeah.
Sasha.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Your previous dog was Odin. And can you tell us how Odin came into your life?
Yes. So a little backstory, my previous experience with dogs. I had always grown up with dogs. My family always purchased what is considered backyard breeder dogs. So that's what I grew up with, mostly German Shepherds. We had some random Bernese Mountain Dogs mixed in there, Newfoundlands, but not well bred. You know what I mean? A little neurotic.
But your German Shepherd you always describe as a really good dog.
Really, really good. Out of the many dogs that we had growing up, he was the one that, and he was like so good. And he also attached himself very strongly to me. So he was very clearly my dog, even though he's intended to be the family dog. My dad really wanted him to be his dog, but yeah, Cody was his name, our German Shepherd, and like he attached himself to me. So I went to obedience classes with him when I was like 14 years old, and he's just this adorable little puppy. And that was most of my experience was that kind of training. It was just like basic teach your puppy how to sit, teach your puppy how to stay, nothing behavioral, just
Yeah.
instructions. Yeah.
Basic pet obedience classes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very basic. So that was like my full understanding. I didn't know much of anything else. And so Cody had moved out with me when Evan and I moved in together and we got our own apartment. Cody came with us. That was just how it works. So we had him until he was like 13 or 14 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, he lived to be a very he lived to be very old, kind of unusual for a German Shepherd. And he was pretty big. But anyway, so like that's my backstory, right? German Shepherd's childhood dog, not a lot of experience with training or the training world, or not even recognizing that there's different types of trainers and methods,
No
that kind of
behavior
stuff.
background. Yeah.
Nothing at all. And at the time we had Cody, we lived out in the country in the woods. It was amazing. And it was perfect for him, for that type of dog. He loved it. And then when he passed, we were like, okay, we're going to move to the city because it is so expensive driving everywhere, living out in the country and working in the city. So we moved to a downtown area. In our heads, we were like, okay, we're not going to have another dog for a while. Just see what it's like not having a dog, right? Like we're young. Let's just see what it feels like. And honestly, it was the worst time of like, it was just terrible. Because I had never not had a dog in my life ever.
Yes.
And
yes.
so you don't realize when you go from having a dog to not having a dog, there's routines that you have set in place, feeding the dog and caring for them and all of that. Yeah. We went 10 months and I feel like I cried just about every day.
Wow.
Not
10 months.
Yeah, we 10 months. Yeah, we went 10 months. We lived downtown in a condo that didn't have a backyard, nothing like that. In my head, I was like, oh, we can't really have a pit bull or anything like that, right? Because most places aren't going to approve us. It's kind of difficult to have a big dog in a condo type situation. But, and I think it was 6 months into being dogless, I had seen this beautiful photo of a white pit bull on Facebook. And of course, that was Odin. And it was like this professional photo and gorgeous, gorgeous. I was in love and I was like, oh, this dog's so cute. He's going to get adopted immediately. So I just was like, that'd be nice. But a pit bull, we can't have a pit bull. Like, that's not a thing we can do. And then about 4 months later, he came up again, and we had started to look at either buying, you guys are going to laugh at this, either buying a cardigan Welsh corgi.
I always chuckle when you talk about how you love corgis. It's so funny to me, but carry on.
But not the Pembroke, just a cardigan.
I know.
So we had found like a reputable breeder, all this stuff. But Evan and I both had this thought of adopting a dog sounded really nice too. Giving a dog a new home and maybe going with an adult dog versus a puppy, because puppies can be a lot. It's a lot of responsibility.
These are hard.
Puppies are hard.
Right? Yeah, so hard. We checked in with our landlord and made sure, yep, pit bulls were okay. So we did all the prep first, asked around, made sure we could actually adopt this dog before even doing it. So we reached out to the rescue, and Odin was in foster. And so we went to go meet the fosters and do that introduction. This was in December of 2014. So we went to the foster's house. There were many red flags that I was just like, looking back, I'm like, oh boy.
The red flags that so many of us feel when we go to meet our first dog. I've been there. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, right?
Well, we don't even know the red flags. We just
no, at the time we don't know.
So many flags here.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
We're just like
flags.
They look great.
Is this normal? I don't know. But the dog's really cute. So
and he had that great photo.
Oh my God, right? Yes.
And
so
love can fix anything, right?
Like
if you just love a dog enough.
Yeah. He will be, yeah.
That's sarcasm, everyone. Perfect. Just so you know, sarcasm.
True.
So the foster's house, we walked into the house and they had what is called commonly referred to as a tiger crate, which for those who don't know, it's a huge crate that has thick bars. Like you can't bend. I don't know if it's made out of steel or what, but it's like you can't bend out of it.
It's literally the type of crate that you just imagine
like,
what you would put a tiger
like a circus.
Yeah,
whatever you're picturing right now is correct. Yes.
Yeah. So they had one of those in the house. And then, I don't know, the fosters were just kind of weird. They were nice, but they were just kind of, I don't know, a little, you're just getting weird vibes.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, like when you meet a foster, they're like, okay, let's take them for a walk. And then you can get acclimated to everybody.
Yeah.
So we took him for a walk with the fosters. The fosters were holding the leash. And the entire time, the fosters were screaming and yelling at people from across the park. And then Odin would start barking, and it was like confrontation everywhere.
Wow. Confrontation everywhere. What could be wrong here?
Right? Yeah, it was weird. It was the strangest thing. I remember so clearly, we're walking our way to a public park, and like there's a guy and a dog in the park many feet away. There's fences in between us. And the foster started yelling at the guy, like, why are you saying? But anyways, so we get back to the house and we're like, yep, we'll take him. And of course the rescue is like, we have to go through all these things. We have to go through all these steps, right? They took a very long time.
Yeah, I'm imagining the whole scene in my head of you guys going on a walk, and then you come back and you're like, well, we'll take him.
We'll take him. We really felt bad for Odin. I know, right? Well, and for us, it was like, we didn't see it as a problem with Odin. It was the environment that he was in that maybe could be better for him, right? And so we were like,
and you were kind of having some feelings about how you're interacting with the people. So then you're probably thinking too, like, oh, it's probably them as well.
Yes.
So I can see how you got there.
If I went on a with someone and they just started yelling at people
randomly,
hundreds of yards away, I would be like, you're weird. Like, it's you.
Especially if you didn't understand the context, which you didn't.
Yeah.
So it just felt like this random confrontation. I don't know. That's strange.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's another thing that reminded me of another thing. So like in our application for Odin, we were very detailed about the lifestyle that we have, the lifestyle that we wanted for this dog, and what we were looking for, right? And in Portland, it's very different with the availability of pit bulls, because we had decided we wanted a pit bull. We wanted a male because that's what we had before. For whatever reason, we were like, we're getting a boy dog.
You like what you like.
Right. And at the time in Portland, there was only 9 or 10 adoptable pit bull males in the city.
Right.
We were looking. It's very different from Phoenix.
Yes.
So I was very set. This is a dog for us. He's cute. He's male. He's a pit bull. As long as the rescue thinks it's a good fit for us, we were ready to adopt him, right?
You trusted them to match you to the dog, I feel like.
Exactly. I was very open, but obviously we were drawn to Odin. And on the application, I put, we live in a condo. Every time he needs to go outside to go potty, we're going to go out into a public park that's directly across the street. You step out the front door, and across the street is this beautiful, beautiful park in Portland. And it was amazing, but there was also a lot of people and activity. I needed a dog that could handle having that kind of lifestyle, right? Being able to go outside and go potty, and that would just be their life.
It's a very urban lifestyle.
Yes, yeah, I love it. We could walk and get our groceries. It was amazing. But yeah,
that's even a difficult environment for the most stable dog if they haven't been acclimated and trained and helped to understand it. Let's just be clear. I mean, that can be a tough environment for any dog.
Yes, exactly. That's a really good point too. Yeah, you were asking a lot.
Yeah. But also, you had another red flag too with the foster, because you had asked if they were looking forward to fostering again or would be fostering again. And what was their response, Monica?
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, so like I had asked, we had made the adoption official, right? We had adopted this dog, we signed the paperwork, and we went to go pick up Odin from the foster. And me just being naive and just curious, I was just like, so are you guys gonna get another foster? And they're like, no. We're gonna take a break or just not do this again. And I was like, okay, cool. Okay, well, bye.
and just because you don't foster another dog doesn't mean necessarily it was a bad experience. But if you aren't fostering another dog again, but your response is absolutely freaking not, then there might be a little bit something behind that.
Might be something going on. Yeah. And it was weird too, because bringing him home, they didn't disclose anything with us. They didn't disclose that he had separation anxiety, reactivity, none of that. Even though I'd asked, they didn't provide that information. So it was confusing to me
specifically asked about
that.
Yeah,
I remember asking, and in my limited terms of behavior education at that time, right? I wasn't like straight out, is he reactive? I asked something more like, will he be okay walking in a park where there's other dogs and people? We live across from a public park. Those like very literal,
Yeah,
I think you did a pretty good job, just because you didn't use the actual terms. I think that you did a good job of being clear on what you were looking for.
And in some ways, because reactivity can be so broad.
Oh, for sure.
You actually narrowed it down for them. It's this specific behavior that is going to be needed.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So you bring Odin home. When did you realize, hey, Houston, we have a problem here?
Oh my gosh, it was pretty much immediately. So I remember we brought him home. It was a long weekend kind of situation because we adopted him. I think we officially took him home on the 19th. We officially signed the paperwork on the 24th or something like that. And the rescue was nice in the sense that they did a foster first. They did do that foster trial
to adopt.
But but it wasn't like many of the rescues that we work with are like, no, you have to do it for 30 days. They just let you, the rescue I was working with was like, you can adopt them anytime.
Whenever.
But like, it was also like, you're going to foster them. So yeah, we adopted him within a few days, but we noticed right away, right? So I remember taking him outside and he completely pancaked. And I had never had a dog pancake before because I had always had I had a pretty confident German Shepherd who was like very social, very appropriate, had appropriate behavior around people.
So when you say he pancaked, you take him outside of the condo building and he immediately flattens belly down on the sidewalk. And to you, it looked like fear, I'm assuming.
Right. Yeah.
It just looked like being fear. Overwhelmed. And he's just like, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all it was to me. I was like, oh, poor guy. So
he shuts down.
Exactly. So that was our first experiences pancaking, right? And then eventually we discovered that he had separation anxiety and
severe separation anxiety.
Severe. Yeah. I know. he destroyed the entire house when we were gone.
Yeah.
Books off the bookshelf, ripped the framing off the doors, chewed holes in the walls.
I think what we can say
Yeah.
is that Odin had clinical separation anxiety at a massive degree. So
Yes.
this isn't a dog who just doesn't like to be alone or maybe drools a little bit, which I'm not saying any of that's okay,
Right.
but this is severe separation anxiety.
Yeah, it was nuts. So they had told us he's crate trained. Red flag, another red flag, right? Okay, hold on though. Another red flag. The trainer had told me, oh, we crate trained him in 1 weekend. Okay. Little me, I didn't know. I was like, okay, he's crate trained. And he was being crated at the foster's home. So I
In
assumed
the
he was
tiger
comfortable
crate.
and happy.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that was something they tried to get us to take the tiger crate home. And I was like, at the time we lived in, I think it was a 470 square foot condo. Like it was
Oh my God.
tiny. It was tiny. And I was like, no, we're gonna go to PetSmart and get a normal crate. And we, kept it in our living room and dressed it all up, all that stuff. And so we put him in the crate when it was time for us to go to work. I think we had him at home. We spent like 3 or 4 days dedicated at home time with him before going. I know it's not very long, but
no, that's great.
But we tried. And then we went back to work, right? And he completely destroyed the crate. His little canines had broken off from chewing. There was blood all over the house. He completely destroyed that crate. So we never crated him after that because it clearly wasn't a thing for him. And of course, the rescue was like, please take the tiger crate. Like, even after that, I was like, this dog's going to seriously hurt himself. I had enough sense to know that, like, if I put him in that would be very bad for his health.
So then we're actually talking about severe separation anxiety and confinement issues. That's like a multi-layered issue.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. So at that time, we knew we needed help. And me not knowing much, I started calling literally every trainer in Portland. I called our veterinarian, just being like, this is what's happening when we're at work.
Yeah.
What do I do? Can I go to you? How does this work? Because I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And all the trainers that we talked to were like, that is above our skill level, what we are comfortable working with. We recommend you go to Synergy Behavior and see Dr. V.
Goodness that those trainers, I'm so thankful that they didn't just say, oh, I can totally deal with that. And
I can take that on.
Yeah. Thank goodness they really truly recognized that there was a serious problem here and they moved you along, because it could have gone way longer with things happening that were really detrimental.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got in touch with Dr. V, who is a animal. Oh my gosh, it's a veterinarian.
Animal behaviorist. Yes.
Yes. I'm always like, gotta get the correct credentialing down. So for those who don't know, there are not very many veterinarians who have gone back to school, because that's what happens. You become a veterinarian and then you go back to school and get your specialty in animal behavior. And there's not very many of them in the United States. So we had one in Oregon. I think we have one in Arizona.
We have two. I believe we have two now, actually.
So they're very hard to find. And as you imagine, they are expensive to see.
It's very specialized, and the needs
in high demand.
Are very high demand. Yes. And their knowledge is so immense. You're right. We don't have nearly enough. It's difficult because as we see behavior going downhill in dogs in general in the US, we need more resources like veterinary behaviorists. We don't have enough. So I'm so thankful that you had somebody that you could see.
I feel very lucky.
When you were working with them, was that when you were taking Odin to work with you?
Yes, so that kind of all happened at the same time. So Dr. V was, first off, amazing. So I have learned that there's lots of different types of techniques that these doctors run their programs under, right? They're not all exactly the same. Dr. V was very much, you pay basically a retainer, right? Like a fee, and then you go to weekly meetings with her one-on-one. And then I could call her at any point if there was like something terrible happening, which we'll talk about that later. And then, and then we also did weekly reactive rover classes under her program, because she also had trainers in her facility and that she would oversee everything, right? So she offered lots of different classes to build skills, basically communication skills and safety, which is what we needed.
Yeah, lots of
So,
resources underneath her
yes,
umbrella.
exactly. Yeah. So at that time, we were meeting with her one on one, just going over everything we were experiencing, and then also working on reactivity classes, just on her recommendation, skill building, all that. So we were working with her. She had prescribed Prozac. So, and we were
But
just
Prozac
working.
takes time to kick in. So it's
Exactly.
not an
Yes.
automatic.
Oh, no. So we were working on ways to reduce his stress in our environment. That was a big thing. We are taking steps and just working on building up his confidence with being in our home, all of that. Baby steps, you guys, baby steps. She immediately was like, somebody needs to be home with him, or he needs to be with you during this time, because once he is triggered, that's bad, right? Once he's feeling that stress, it kicks you back a step in your training process or your confidence building. We started to take him to work. So I started taking him to work with me, and just to get him out of that environment. And so that way he didn't feel triggered by like the social anxiety of it all.
Yeah, and he really
So,
enjoyed your car. He enjoyed car rides.
yes,
He
That
enjoyed
was
your
his
car.
safe
So
place.
the car was like a safe
yes,
place. So that's a great way to think outside of the box. Okay, I can't stay home. What is another way we
was
can
a way,
work with him?
right? Yeah. And so, yeah, we kept him in my car because, yeah, it was a safe place. And remember, we were
Also,
in Oregon. So,
I was going to say, this is not Arizona in July. This is
yeah,
Oregon.
Yeah.
yeah. Very different Oregon in December, January, nice and cool. And so, like, when I took him to work with me, he stayed in the car because the owner of the company, I worked for a small construction company at the time, they were like, we don't like pit bulls. He needs to stay in your car or he needs to be muzzled. That was with no history given. It was just like, this is our stance on pit bulls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And me being like, I just adapted this pit bull. It looks like I'm not gonna muzzle my dogs. I again was uneducated on any of this stuff. So I
Because
kept him in my car.
muzzling, we
No,
know muzzling is not negative. We know
no,
that a tool, and it's something that should never be seen as equals aggressive dogs. There's a million reasons why you might muzzle a
yes,
dog, but
so many
the
reasons.
conversation on that has very much shifted since
Yes,
back when you got Odin. So I just
yeah,
want to say, as an aside, yeah.
yeah, totally, yes. I'll just jump into the bad part. So, so I
Just
know.
jump
Let's
in.
just jump right in. I'm like, how do I ease into this? There's just no easing into it.
No.
So we had an incident happen while I had him at work. So, like I said earlier, I would have him be in my car, and then on my breaks, lunch breaks, that kind of stuff, I'd take him out, walk him around, make sure he got his potties. But he was very happy just hanging out in the car. So one day I was taking him for his little potty break. And this was around the time that I noticed he started barking at people. So to back up a little bit, after pancaking, he started barking at dogs, right? And I was like, that's fine. Dogs bark at dogs. My shepherd barked at dogs. That's fine. That's normal. Didn't bother me at all. But then he started to bark at people without dogs. And that scared me because I was like, what does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with a pit bull barking at a person. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or any big dog, really. And so it just made me nervous. And
Yeah.
it just kind of ticked, something was
A
like,
little alarm bell went off in your head.
yeah. I was like, I need to be careful. And that was something I brought up with Dr. V. And she was like, so he is now associating people having dogs, right? And so now he's associating just people as something to bark at because he was
Mm-hmm.
lumping them all together. Going back, so he and I were out for a little potty break. A coworker from across the parking lot was like, I'm gonna come pet your dog. And Odin
Oh,
was already barking. He had started barking, his hair was standing up, he had a stiff body stance, furrowed brow, all the things, tail up, very stiff body, right? And luckily, because this was in a kind of warehouse environment, the doors are open, people are out. Everyone heard me say, no, don't come over here.
yeah. You're
I don't
yelling to
think,
him, don't come
yeah,
over.
don't come over here.
But
He's
not like
barking.
calmly, hey,
No,
please don't
no.
Hey,
come over
maybe
here,
not.
like yelling, like
Yeah,
guttural, don't come
yeah.
over.
Like, don't come over. Yeah. And I was just like,
I
he's
mean, as
barking.
as
This is,
yelling as
yeah,
much as Monica yells.
I know, right?
but
Yeah.
also
Well, it's
but
like,
but also Odin's body language.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So I, was saying all the things. Don't come over here. Now's not a good time. He's upset. The coworker was like, "Oh no, it's okay. All dogs like me." Literally said that. I'm a dog person.
Oh
Walks right
boy.
up, and I'm like, And this dog, I mean, Odin was 80 something pounds, and he's a big dog.
Monica
Yeah.
is also 80 something pounds.
Yeah, Monica's like
The math
exactly.
just
So the coworker walks up, and Odin perches himself, kind of jumps up, puts his paws on his chest,
Mhm.
and I had a feeling I was like, maybe he's just gonna lick or something, like give him a kiss, like what a lot of dogs do. But that's what I was hoping, right? So Odin perched up. The coworker started to push Odin away, was like, "Get off me!" And
Oh,
Odin reached in and bit his neck, my coworker's neck.
yeah.
And there's a lot of blood. So it's a very
Yeah, sensitive
fleshy,
area.
sensitive area, very thin skin there. So there was a lot of blood, and it was very traumatic for me. So that was a whole thing. I almost got fired. It was very, if this dog comes back on this property, you will lose your job. You will be
Which was
done. Like,
fair. I mean, that was
totally
fair.
fair. Yeah,
But
100%.
and
Yeah,
situations like this happen so fast. So we're
so fast.
describing it over a couple minutes, but these type of situations happen at lightning speed. So you
Yes.
probably had 7,500 thoughts going through your mind at the same time.
Yep.
And you
half a second to respond.
yeah, you have
Yep.
a millisecond to respond. And this gentleman had literally ignored every single warning in front of
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
and just came right in. And I mean, I don't want
Yeah.
anyone to get bitten. This is traumatic and horrible, but dude.
Right? Like,
Also,
listen.
just as a side note, even if somebody says my dog is friendly and the dog is stiff and barking and hair is
Yeah.
raised, and you don't
Don't
know that dog,
approach.
maybe you just say, maybe not friendly enough for me.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like, so
Yeah.
even if somebody is not yelling at you, don't come over. Maybe just keep walking.
The
Yeah.
thing is, just because you see a dog doesn't mean you get the right to approach and pet said
Also
dog.
true.
And
Yes.
I think that we as a society have become so dog crazy that we've lost our damn minds. Just because you are out in public and you see a dog, and the person who has the dog, like Christy said, says it's okay, they're friendly. Look at the dog also,
Yeah.
because their body language might be completely different, and the owner may just not be educated on dog behavior and what stress signals are. We don't have the right to just go and touch people's dogs. Please stop doing that.
Yeah.
That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this situation could have been completely avoided on so many levels.
Right. Yeah. It could have been. Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
you have a
So,
dog with a bite history and you almost lose
And
your job.
it's super traumatic. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
even if besides those things, that is just a really traumatic
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
situation to be
Yeah.
And
in.
keep in mind, this all happened within the first month of us adopting him. It wasn't
Yeah.
like
It's a
over,
new
it
dog.
was destroying our rental,
Mhm.
trying to keep that from the landlords. Like, oh, yeah,
Mhm.
um, and
Yeah.
then, yeah, dealing with that, dealing with him barking at people and then keep biting somebody. And because of that, complete honesty, like I have anxiety with people and dog interactions now. I'm very cautious and careful. And I really struggled a lot. I don't know if you guys ever noticed me when we volunteer, like I would struggle with
For
dogs
sure.
interacting with people, getting on the ground. I'd be like, oh, no.
Mhm. For good reason. For good
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, oh man,
I
that is a
know. That was a
lot.
lot.
And that's a lot to take in the first month. You guys were really
Yeah.
dedicated owners
Yep.
to
And so the,
have a veterinary behaviorist on board within the first month, to have your home destroyed, to have a bite situation.
And
That's a
yeah,
lot.
the financial
Oh,
implications
yeah.
of that whole situation, I
the
just
whole
can't even
thing.
imagine. When I was your
Right.
age, I couldn't have afforded any of that. I would have been selling
Mm-mm.
my left arm to get my dog into a veterinary behaviorist.
Yeah, it was a lot of
So
money
much
for us. Like we
stress.
were not, yeah, yeah. So we were living paycheck to paycheck,
Yeah.
not doing well. And yeah, what our $60 investment on adopting this dog turned out to be thousands of dollars that we didn't have. I'm still just like, where
Yeah.
did
How
did I
did you
sell
do it?
something? I think what did, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But on top of that, it's not to say that I was fully invested in him being a part of our family. So that was another element too, is while we loved him, we adopted him, right? And we invested all this time and money in him, I would come home and cry every freaking day because like I didn't feel like we had a connection. I would come home and he'd just be a stress mess. Because I was usually the first one home. I would come home to pee everywhere, blood all in random places because he had,
Oh my
injured
God.
himself, books destroyed. Literally anything that was left out would be destroyed, whether that be books on the shelf, anything, literally anything, you guys. He would jump up on the
My
Walls
counters,
to your
like
home, whatever.
walls, everything. So I would come home and cry and needing a comfort of a dog, right? Or some kind of like connection.
yes.
He was off, he was coming down from a high anxiety, stress day for him. And then me coming home, I would start crying,
Yes,
like
of course.
I'm in this situation. And I just didn't feel like he was a safe dog to have in our home and have out in public. How are we going to live with this dog? And Evan was very committed. He was like, we adopted this dog. He's ours, right? We're not returning him. When we started to think about that, that idea of returning him would just mean he would probably go to another home and experience something similar. And that's like, well, we're already on this path. We're already working with somebody. We felt like we were probably the best fit for him, even though maybe wasn't the
So
best fit for us.
first, I want to say that my heart actually breaks for Monica and Evan back in that time because it's just so traumatic and stressful and emotional on so many levels. And
Yeah.
it should have never happened to you or
Right.
anyone, to be honest. My question is, Monica today says, I know he wasn't safe. Did Monica back then, was that something that you were able to have a thought about or verbalize? Or do you think it was more like a subconscious? Because the conversation around unsafe dogs now is very different than it was back in 2014. So I'm curious if that's you now understanding that, or did you really truly feel that way back then?
Yeah, I think that is more my perspective now, seeing that and being able to, from an outside perspective, almost be like, okay, this dog should have been behaviorally euthanized. He wasn't safe to be around. And at the time, I was so wrapped up in the pit bull awareness, pit bull advocacy. It was very popular at that time, right? To be like,
Oh,
don't
I
bully
was
my
deep in
breed,
it then
all that
too. Oh
stuff,
yeah.
all of that, right? And so I felt like this weight of this dog is adorable. We adopted them. They're a senior, they're a pit bull. They have to be all the perfect things. And so I was scared to tell anybody about what was going on. I didn't tell anybody. That bite thing was a secret. You guys, I didn't even tell you guys about
I
it until
literally
like,
didn't know about this until 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
yeah,
I knew
I
about
don't
it
talk.
because we've had conversations when you were adopting Sasha, I think is when you shared. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of shame built
Oh
into that
yeah.
too, right? So I think that filtered my ability to see what should have actually been happening. And you know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah. There's something that happens when you become a pit bull advocate, and it's even different because Rottweiler was my breed first and they're very misunderstood on many levels, but being a pit bull advocate takes it to another level, and you feel so much responsibility and so much you want to champion for them in so many ways because there are so many of them, and the majority of them are wonderful, fantastic dogs.
yeah.
So it's really difficult because you do feel this want to champion for them. And I'm going to say this from my perspective. I think a lot of people will gloss over a lot of really difficult behavioral stuff with those dogs because they want to champion for them and because they feel like, well, if anyone knows that there's one that has a problem, like Odin, that it's just going to destroy all of the work that we've done. When in reality, we need to be even more responsible and even more aware and understand behavior even more and make good, solid decisions about the dogs that we're adopting out. That's reality.
Exactly.
And that's the greater good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
I will say,
exactly
like,
it.
My veterinarian, I met her at the gym and she just happened to come over and say hi to Lucy because I worked out at a CrossFit gym. And so we sometimes brought our dogs in. No big deal. And so I was working with her and she came over and said hi. And I said something to her immediately. I'm just training her to be the best advocate for the breed, and like immediately launched into my dog's going to be an advocate. And she just turned around and looked at me very nonchalantly and said, not every dog needs to be an advocate for their breed. And then she petted her and walked away, and which is hilarious because I asked her if she remembered saying that to me, and she's like, "No, what? I don't even remember that conversation." But it stuck, it resonated, and it took a lot of pressure off that I had made up.
Yes.
Because I was so steeped into being an advocate for pit bulls because I really did love the breed and I really do love the breed, and then she ended up being an advocate for her breed, but like taking off some of that pressure allowed me then to be honest about behaviors too that I was seeing and say, hey, you know what, she's kind of a jerk with bicycles. How can I fix this? Where did this come from? And then get input from other people to say, oh, here's some things that worked for us,
Yeah. And I think it's important to say all dogs have stuff. All dogs. Behavior is part of who they are. It is integral to dogs and people.
Yeah.
So look, Tiago's perfect and he still has shit, we all have stuff. And I think I think that's part of the reason why Christy and I started this podcast, to be able to openly talk about the stuff. It relieves that pressure and that responsibility. And it allows us just to say, hey, we're human and dogs are dogs and it's okay. Yeah. And so it's interesting now to talk to Monica today and you sort of reliving this whole experience with Odin and recognizing now that he really wasn't a safe dog. That's not saying anything bad about pit bulls. It's not saying anything bad about Odin. It's a really unfortunate and sad combination of nurture and nature and genetics that came together to make a dog who really struggled living life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He really did. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and on top of that too, because we learned about people selection. Is that the right word?
Being people selective. Yeah.
Being people selective. That's the way you say it. He was just unpredictable and it was scary for me. So it really added to the anxiety of everything. And having people over just wasn't an option ever. If we had to have a landlord over to do maintenance on the house, we would just pack up and be like, we'll figure out something. We're gonna go, because we couldn't have our landlords knowing, which is another thing that is
you couldn't
so
have
bad.
People over for how many years? How many years did you own Odin?
It was almost 5 years. We were coming up on our 5-year anniversary. Yeah.
This young 20-something couple just starting out their lives did not travel, did not leave, did not have people over, were not able to have a air quote normal life.
Yeah.
For the sake of saving this one dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's heavy.
Yeah. I know.
That is, yeah.
I still struggle with anxiety with Sasha, like interacting with people, and I'm like, she's fine. She's literally the most perfect dog ever in my eyes.
She is.
But taking her to the vet office, it's such a different experience now. We can enter through the lobby. And while I am keeping an eye out and making sure that there aren't other dogs and that kind of stuff, because she is not social with dogs, like try to, protect her in that sense. But her going to the back of the vet office with the tech doesn't scare me. I can hand off the leash. The first few times I felt like my heart just dropped. I felt like I was gonna cry. I was like, oh, please don't anything bad happen. But she's fine. Everyone loves her. We get photos from the vet tech behind the scenes being like, she's the best girl.
Yeah.
So it's a very different experience.
Yeah. You have to adjust from worrying that your dog is going to bite someone or maul another dog to just advocating for your dog, like Sasha.
Yes.
There's a difference. There's a massive difference.
Such a difference. Yeah. And with Odin, he would have to be sedated to even enter the building. We always entered some back office back of the building. Even when we first adopted him, I realized that going to the vet office, I asked them because I didn't know. I never experienced this. All I knew is I don't think he should be around with the general public in the lobby. So I just asked the front desk, can we just wait until it's our time and then we can go through a different way? Because he's stressed out. He can't do this. And that was step one of learning how to advocate for your dog. Because that was new to me. I had always had very social dogs. Like hanging out in the lobby, it was just like, oh, you can see all the other cute dogs that are here. And now it became this very stressful, chaotic thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, very different.
Gosh, I just feel so much for you guys during that time.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a lot.
It was a lot. Well, and on top of that,
and the
like
trauma.
So much trauma, right? And on top of that, dealing with that, not feeling like we can publicly speak about our issues. My family was very anti us adopting a dog in general, especially adopting a senior and a pit bull. So I felt like I couldn't even share anything with it. It was just like Evan and I and the veterinarian. That was our little group, right? Because I felt like I couldn't confide in anybody else or like talk to them. Yeah. Because it was, again, the shame thing.
Yeah.
My family was very against us adopting a dog. So
from that first incident that happened at work to when Odin actually passed, what has all of that experience, how does that impact the decisions you make today? Because Odin passed on and then you're trying to decide, now what do we do?
Now what, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, having Odin played a huge part in how we planned our life forward, right? Everything. So even going to adopt Sasha, we have a little list of things. Does this matter? All of that. And going down to even just the way we experience dogs in our life now. So like with Cody, my German Shepherd, he was a dog that literally went everywhere with me. I was known as the girl that had a German Shepherd that went everywhere. He was always with me. He was very social. I would take him to, those terrible, I would never go to this now. This is how much my experiences have changed me. Those big walks with the dogs, the charity walks. I would take him there and he would bark at the dogs and I'd be like, okay, we're gonna go. But
which is a very shepherdy thing to do. That it wasn't such a
German Shepherd.
That's very different from what Odin was doing. Let's just say that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I felt comfortable taking him to those places. I remember walking him literally in downtown Portland, just being like, well, we're going for a walk just for fun. And we would go for hikes all the time. I would take him hiking everywhere. And he was just very social.
Just very normal things to do with your dog.
Just very normal things to do.
Just so you know, like that's just very normal things to do with a dog.
Yeah. With Odin, we had to adjust our lives a lot. We didn't go anywhere where there were people or anything like that. So because of that, with Sasha now, if we do go for a walk, we're not going on a main trail. We don't take her to eating out at outdoor spaces.
Patios.
Patios. Yeah. We're never going to like big events where there's dogs. If we do go for a walk, we go to like the strip mall first thing in the morning where there's no one else and just walk her, let her sniff.
It's interesting because I remember when you were trying to decide if Sasha was the right fit. So in between Odin and Sasha, you guys fostered. So
yes.
Why did you make the decision to foster during that time?
That's a really good question. So when we lost Odin, it was very unexpected. At the time, was just like, I am so tired. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
It felt like a weight was lifted. It's a weird feeling to go through the morning and also relief at the same time.
It's very bittersweet.
It was very weird. I felt guilty for feeling relief. And then also, why am I starting to cry, you guys?
No,
I felt
because
guilty for feeling relief, but then like also genuinely missing my dog,
Of course, yeah. And that makes sense because even with Odin was not an easy dog. I mean, that's safe to say. It was an easy dog. You still loved him. Like it took some time to bond with him, but you guys got there. You did love him, and there were things that you appreciated about him.
There was joy.
So it's not like, yeah. So it makes sense that yes, there's some relief because of all the things you've just talked about, but also it's like that's your dog, and there's a deep love there.
Okay, so
Exactly.
let's talk about some of your favorite things about Odin so we can lighten this up here, because there was
Okay.
joy.
Yeah.
There was so much joy. So he was the most perfect model dog ever in the sense of like photography. Since I'm a photographer, I set up my backdrop. He loved when I set up my backdrop, he would run over and sit his little butt down on the paper and be like, okay, I'm ready. He would dress up. You guys, I never did any obedience training with him, right? I always had done safety training, reactivity, that kind of stuff, how to communicate with your dog to keep them safe. That was the only training we did. And that was mostly because the idea of doing obedience training with other people. And yeah, no. um, but I don't know how, but he knew things like backup. I could just say backup and he would just do it. And I'm like, I don't know how you know this because I never taught you. But he was just amazing in that sense. Yeah, he would look at me and do all those adorable little things. Yeah, I do miss he had a different snuggling variable, I guess, than Sasha's. His snuggling was more like a desperate need for touch, which led for intense cuddle sessions. He would squeeze himself in the places that he just did not fit. And it was adorable and hilarious. And I also knew that was a part of his separation anxiety, but it was also a very funny thing to see him just squeeze on the couch. Where Sasha is very, I will get attention when I want it and no other way. She's very proper in that sense. Oh yeah, back on the fostering thing though. So we started fostering because I needed a routine, right? I had learned from previous experience, the 10 months of not having a dog was really hard. It was
Yes.
really, really hard. And so we started fostering, right? And my goal was not to adopt a dog because we don't know if we want another dog ever. Like
Right.
we were
Right.
just so ready for a break. And so we started fostering and simply with the idea of filling that routine of having a dog. So feeding the dog, taking them outside. Because if you notice, if you don't have a dog, you don't go outside very much. Like I wasn't enjoying my backyard, all those things. We just started fostering and yeah, just basically did that to just heal ourselves and just feel more comfortable,
Yeah.
allow us to process, but also not miss the routine, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really does. Yeah. What do you think now that you've had some time and space from having Odin? What kind of tips and tricks did you learn that you would want to share with other people who might be either in that situation or living with a reactive dog or some of those things?
Yeah. I think my biggest tip would be having patience for your dog. I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of people expect overnight results or are upset. This happened with us is when you've spent all these hours and time and you finally get to the point where your dog is checking in with you and doing all the things, right? And then there's a setback because an off-leash dog comes up or something like
Mhm.
that. Setbacks are going to happen. They suck so bad, but they're going to happen and you
Mhm.
can still rebuild. And just taking that patience, right? And understanding that was our biggest lesson is
Mhm.
that because that was another thing. I think I shared this with you guys. A big setback for us is I can't remember how long it was into when we had Onan, but we had worked a ton on his training. That boy, oh, I was so proud of him. I would say our thing was, I would say, look at me. If I saw something that could make him stress,
Mhm.
so I would say, look at me. He'd make eye contact. That was our thing. That was what worked for him. And so he would get to the point where if he saw a person or a dog, he would look at me and
Mhm.
I'd give him treats every
It's
single time.
fantastic.
It
Yep.
was amazing. But then what happened was Evan was taking him out before he had to go. It was a job interview. The poor guy. He was like all dressed up for a job interview. Took Odin out one more time to go potty before he went to his interview. An off leash dog ran up to him
Oh
and
no.
Odin. Did I tell you guys about this?
I don't think I remember this.
It's very traumatic. So Evan and I have had different experiences, right? So
That's a good point.
yeah, so
Yeah.
off leash dog ran up in a park that leashes were required. So there's that. And the off leash dog attacked Odin. And this was in a park that was
Oh,
very busy. So a crowd started to form watching the whole thing.
oh,
And
poor
poor Evan
Evan.
is trying to pull, and he's got mud because this is Portland. It's been, it's muddy and grassy, and his
Yeah.
interview outfit's just a mess. And The dogs are fighting. Odin just clamped on and held while the other dog bit around his entire face. Nobody was helping. People were making comments,
Of
like
course.
that pit bull is
That pit bull.
attacking. And Evan was very upset and was just like, fuck off. My dog's on a leash. So that was an experience so we both have different traumas. I have trauma with dogs and people. He has trauma with dogs and dogs now. So we are very, yeah. So that was quite an experience. The dog guardian have just packed up and bounced, just left, didn't do anything. Yeah.
That's
The
fantastic.
vet, his face was all swollen. It was bad. It looked
so now
very
you
bad.
have vet bills as well.
Yep. Yeah. It was a whole thing. So that happened. But after that, it was really discouraging for us because we had gotten him to a point where he was checking in and he was having good experiences and all of that. And then this one idiot had to just ruin thousands of hours of work, thousands of dollars worth of work. And I just wish people would understand that when they're letting their dog off leash, it's putting other dogs at risk that are in training, recovering from things. Maybe even the human has anxiety. Off leash dogs should only be in off leash areas. That's my big thing. Yeah, it was a whole thing. So it really set us back and discouraged us. And I don't think we ever quite recovered from that experience. We just went on full, we're gonna keep him completely
lockdown mode.
contained. Yeah, I think it was a few days after that we looked at moving, and our lease was about ready to end anyways. And we're like, okay, we got to move because we don't even want to have that happen again.
This
So
isn't
yeah,
working.
yeah. So many
Yeah, and
experiences, you guys.
and so many traumas stacked on trauma, too. And that takes some time to wade through and unlayer as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I know
I am a
that
suppressor.
has oh, okay. So still unlayering some of that.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that it's affected you even in the way you run your photography now. So, in addition to how you interact with dogs and how you interact with people and dogs at the shelter, all of that, you've really modeled your business around having a dog that could be reactive to people and other dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I always keep Odin in my mind when we're like
Oh,
working with our clients, right? Yeah. It's like one of those things where I'm like, oh, my heart. But man, why am I
Yeah.
going to cry again? But it has affected every avenue. Oh my gosh, I'm going to start crying, you guys. Dang it, Christy.
Sorry.
It's okay.
but there's beauty in it too, as you cry and wipe
Yeah,
your
there.
tears. There's beauty
Yeah.
in, I'm just sitting here thinking about Odin helping you hone your photography skills because he was such a perfect model, and how you two had that beautiful connection during that time because he taught you so much about photographing a dog and about colors and about texture, all that stuff. That
Yeah.
is such a beautiful part of your journey with him. And then to also have it be such an important part about how you run your business, because you making sure that the dogs and the people are safe so that they can be photographed and their actual true connection can come through in that photograph. That's thanks to Odin and everything that he taught you, that he made you learn
Yes.
to keep him safe. When you talk to dog trainers, everybody says, oh, well, I had my first difficult dog and that got me into this. It's such a part of so many trainers' stories, and it's part of your story too. Odin pushed you to make this business safe for everyone, and that's a really beautiful thing. Now I'm gonna make you cry again.
I know, right? You're gonna make you cry again. Well, and that's something I often find is dog guardians, they think that they can't get photos with their dog because their dog is reactive or they're going to be crazy or whatever. I said that in air quotes. And all of those things, right? And so that's why, because Odin was, I mean, he was a mix of everything, all of the experiences. We always keep that in the front of our mind when we're thinking about a photo session. That's why Evan comes with us to every session, keeps an eye out for people, keeps an eye out for dogs, keeps everybody safe. and we're always photographing places that are very quiet and peaceful. They're not busy. We spend hours, you guys, hours scouting places, trying to find the most quiet, Odin friendly places.
And at least a little piece of that was inspired by the beautiful session that a friend of ours, Kara, forced you,
Yes.
literally forced you to have
yeah.
with Odin. And
Yeah,
and the process of finding a space that was safe for him.
Yeah, so that is a really good story too. She, as you guys know, I had photographed many people, many of our friends. I had been the person that was always photographing people and their dogs and being like, you need to get these photos done, right? And being that the opposite side of being, I could never do that because Odin might bite somebody and I can't deal with that stress and anxiety and
or
all
the
of that.
risk.
Or puts the risk. Yes, exactly. The risk, putting somebody at that risk. To back it up a little bit, Christy and Kara had came over to our house previously. I don't even know how it came about that you guys came over. I still don't remember. Like, how did you guys get in the house? How did I okay
We'll
that?
tell you
like
how we got in. We got in with loaves of bread. Like, I think we each had a full loaf of bread.
Yeah,
because if a dog is eating, it
people.
can't be biting.
Yeah.
It can't be biting.
And bread was Odin's thing, apparently. So you were just going to have a loaf of bread each.
It was his high value treat, you guys. Like, anytime we left the house, we gave him bread. Anything stressful was happening, we gave him bread. So yeah, you and Kara.
Honestly, Kara had been invited over, but we were at an event at the shelter in the morning. And I was like, oh, do I run all the way home? Because we're coming back for a second event at the shelter that night. And so I was like, oh, do I run all the way home? Or she goes, why don't you just come over to Monica and Evan's house with me?
Yeah.
I don't know if I was officially invited or if that just added a whole nother level of stress. Because I don't think
literally
we
can't remember.
realized. I think our prep was, oh, he can be a little iffy with people, but here's bread and you'll be fine. So just make friends with bread.
Just make friends with, and I feel like I had told Kara about the bite history and was just very clear. This is what has happened. And I think it's just you guys have become friends and our dog people.
Yeah,
and
they had tons of dog experience, behavior experience, meeting unknown dogs at the shelter. And you had, and Evan had years of working with Odin at this point. If you could imagine the best case scenario for people to meet your dog selective, people selective dog, I suppose that would be it. With bread.
With bread. Well, I think you guys went through a whole loaf, and he was still a fit dog. Did. He wasn't fat.
Through an entire loaf. I was like, oh, here, have another piece. Nope, have another piece.
You're looking at me weird. Here's another piece. Yeah.
But so it's not because I'm holding bread or because you don't like me. I don't know. Have another piece.
Well, he was just so weird because there was something that would just switch when he was changing. And to this day, looking back, I cannot predict it. There was a moment, there's, a few times where was it a cigarette smell? Was it something triggering him? But I just think he was just off in general, and there was no predicting it. And because I saw it with you guys, like when Christy and Kara came over, he was okay. And then he wasn't. He got really stiff and got really close to your face. And I was like, oh, fuck, he's going to bite their
I think he got
neck.
close to Kara's face.
Kara. Right?
Yeah.
Right up in there. And I was like...
And I think I said, I think we're going to need more bread.
Yeah. You could just feel it.
He was laying down too. He had been snuggling with us. And so I get when you say he was an excellent snuggler, he was an excellent snuggler. He had been very comfortable. And then it was just everything got very tense very quickly.
Yeah. And you have no idea why.
And that unpredictability is such a huge part of the problem. And that just is that miswiring of the brain. And so there's nothing anyone can do about that.
Right.
But then after that experience, Carol was like, sure, let me go this dog.
Okay. Hold on, let's reframe that though. She pressured me to get photos. Okay,
I know.
Yeah, she wasn't like sure. She was, Monica, this is going to happen.
Yeah,
and tell me what day it's going to happen.
Yeah.
it was a whole thing where I kept putting it off, I was like, sure, she's just being nice because I photographed her and like, I've taught her my ways of photography that she just wants to be nice, you know?
But in the end,
but
behind the scenes, we're texting and she's like, Monica keeps saying no, but this is going to happen. I am going to make sure she has photos with her dog.
yeah, it was perfect timing too. So like we had our session. I'm gonna start crying again. Ugh. We had our session. It was Kara and Kate came over, and I was very particular. Kara was very like, pick wherever you want to get your photos done, and I was like, okay. Obviously, like most people think of a public park, something like that. Your backyard. My backyard is brick walls and ugly. I hate brick walls. At the time, I worked at a hospital that has 100 something acres of undeveloped property in the desert. It's freaking beautiful. So I scouted my hospital property, and that's where we did our photos. It was amazing because nobody was there, and it was just undeveloped desert that was privately owned.
And it showed you that it can happen.
Yeah, if you find a good location, have the right approach to it. Kara took the right approach, very slow and calm and not interacting with the dog very much, just letting us interact. And so, yeah, we got our photos and it was amazing. And I wanted to do it again. I remember after Kara sent me the photos, I was like, when can we do this again? It was so much fun. And I loved having our photos. I loved seeing the photos. I was like, this is what it feels like. This is so much fun.
And in those photos, you saw the beautiful Odin that you loved. It was like a capture of the best of him.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, exactly.
And then
I didn't see the stressed bug eyes or anything like that. Are you trying to get me to cry? And then
no,
I was like, and then he died.
Tissue alert.
And then he died. Oh no.
I'm laughing, but I'm laughing because I'm like, I'm gonna cry.
I'm so uncomfortable. I'm
so uncomfortable. Okay, so then
but it was just shortly after that he passed.
It was, so he had some medical issues that we were aware of. He was having, surprise, surprise, neurological issues. Yeah, with his ability to move his body. And we had seen a veterinarian and they were like, this is concerning, but you should have about a year with him. That's where we put it. You know how it is when you get that kind of diagnosis. You're like, I have a full year.
I got time.
We're good. We got plenty of time. Exactly 7 days later, he passed away. Oh, dang it, I'm crying again. And it was interesting too, because it was during when Heartspeak came to town and that whole thing. So it felt even more beautiful that he passed during that time, because Heartspeak came to town to teach Phoenix photographers how to photograph dogs.
It's dogs. A very an organization that's really close to your heart.
Yes, that was really beautiful. He passed away when they were in town. I didn't expect that. Like I didn't expect any of that. And it's like makes the photos so much more important that we got those right at the perfect time. He wasn't sick. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like he was still mobile.
It was him.
It was him. We got them while he was healthy. If we would have waited until like the day, because I've seen where people want to get photos of their dogs the day they're euthanized. They're not quite.
Yeah, I had to do it with Daisy. I was lucky enough that you were able to take photos with us, and they are beautiful and I cherish them. But I also know that the next day she was gone, and it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
And I think that also colors your deep desire to share with people. Don't wait.
Yeah.
If you want photos of your dog, don't wait until you lose 10 pounds, until you grow your hair out, and these are literally things I say to myself. Don't wait until you train the perfect sit, until you do all the little things that you want for it to be perfect, because the moment is about your relationship, not all the other little details that don't mean anything. And and when you see those photos, none of those little things will matter.
Yeah, you don't think about it. Yeah.
Nope. No,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And just for good measure, let's see if I can get through this without crying.
Good old cry session.
Yeah. Welcome to therapy. I know, like, I thought I had a lot more time with Lucy. I mean, I knew she was getting old, so I knew we were in the last year or two, but I thought I had plenty of time.
Mhm.
But I'm so glad because I did want to wait. I was like, well, I'm gonna wait. Like, I had given up on losing weight. That was my first round of pictures with Monica. And Monica finally said, stop, just come get
Right.
your pictures.
We've
It
been
wasn't
friends for how
happening.
long? And like, I still haven't.
Yeah. And then the second session was I wanted to wait for the flowers in case there were
Mm.
good flowers, and maybe I wanted to do this, or maybe when it cooled down a little more, or maybe, and then I finally was just like, okay, you know what, I'll just do it, I'll just put it in the book. And then I was like, oh, did I really? But I'm so glad I did. There were a couple things. One, she had just had surgery on their leg, so I was like, oh, I don't want her leg to look weird in the pictures. It look fine. That
Yep.
it didn't
Couldn't
look
even
weird at all.
tell.
I can tell because I was like, I know
But
exactly what I'm looking
yeah.
for, but we just worked a lot to, I would be like, oh, bad side, let's re-angle her.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize I only had a few months from then left with her. So I'm glad that not all her pictures are when she lost, 20 pounds and
Right.
was
All that.
frail.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a
And
different
you could
dog. Yeah.
Yeah, you really captured what we had in that moment. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well,
Dang it.
It
now
turns out, no, the answer was no. I could not make it through without crying.
and
Thank you for coming to
apparently
our experiment.
apparently we will be putting a tissue warning on this damn episode.
Yes, yes.
No,
Yeah.
I think it's really beautiful that you were through such a trying experience with Odin and you came out on the other side with so much beauty and so much good. And that's not to say that people need to experience bad to experience good, because
Yeah.
Right,
you
right.
wouldn't wish the experience with Odin on anyone.
Mm-mm.
But to be able to kind of look back and say, there really were some roses that came out of all this darkness, and be able to kind of look and honor him in that way is beautiful. And he has led you to Sasha in so
Yeah.
many different ways. I mean, he made you really think about what is important to me about owning a dog. So you started one of the fosters. You were taking temporary little moments with Sasha
Yeah.
when Christina needed a break, and you were just like, I don't think I want to give her back. You were keeping her longer.
Yeah. It was one of those things where it's like we gradually, I think the first time we kept her, it was like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of became a gradual thing. I remember I added it up one time and we kept her for a total, I think, of 3 months.
Yeah.
It was like
And
it was a
all
long
of us are in
time,
the
but like all
background.
broken up.
Yeah, us are in background. Oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing? Like, wouldn't it be amazing?
Very
This would be
perfect fit.
amazing. Yeah, I remember you coming to me and you had this long list of
Oh my
things.
gosh.
On the list, I very clearly remember you saying that you wanted a dog social dog.
But then, yeah, it's like when we really sat down and thought
Yes,
about it, Evan was like, I don't want to ever have another dog on dog interaction. That
you
actually
thought,
stresses me out.
yes, because
Mhm.
society says that that's what you want, that's what you put on your list. But when
Yeah.
you and I actually broke it down, I was like, Monica, you don't even want to have dog interactions. They
You don't
stress
want to.
you out. Do you really, really want a dog? Because here's the thing, if you got a dog social dog that truly enjoys having interactions with other dogs and you weren't able to do that with them, you would have then felt like you couldn't fulfill something for this dog. And
Yes.
that would have been a real tragedy for everyone. It would have put
Right.
you in situations that were unnecessarily uncomfortable. And it would have made the dog, you feel like the dog didn't have a full life because you couldn't give them something that you felt like they needed. I think the lesson is, when you are looking for your next dog, really, really be honest. Don't go with what you think everyone should do.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you and your partner really, really hold important? Because you can find that. And then it's a beautiful, beautiful match, just like you and Sasha. And it's so amazing.
Yeah. I'm gonna start crying again. it was just a lot of pressure too, right? Like
Yes.
coming from a dog like Odin and then adopting another dog in my head is like, I have to have a perfect dog. But also, there's another note. A lot of people will pressure people like me who have had all these lovely experiences to adopt another dog like that
Another difficult
because
dog.
yeah. And so
Oh,
you also feel that they're like, oh, I was getting messages from people and it felt very inappropriate. People being like, oh, there's this dog that is reactive or has separation anxiety. You should take on this dog. You'd be perfect home for it. And it's
Because
like,
you
that's
have all this
nice. But like,
experience.
yeah, that's like,
oh, yeah.
that's not what I want to have moving forward. And yeah, so like writing that list, while helpful because I know the last time we adopted it was very in an emotional state, right? I was missing having a dog and we saw this dog and we're like, this dog needs out. We need to help this dog. And so it came from a place of emotions, right? And so moving forward with
Also, Odin,
Sasha,
we're gonna post pictures because he was freaking
Yeah.
adorable, beyond
squish
adorable. Yeah,
mouth, very
yeah,
cute.
so cute.
Yeah.
You do feel that pressure.
Yeah.
And really,
Exactly.
in reality, what we need to be telling people, no matter where they're at, is look at your life and what is really important to you, and then look for the right match and make sure that you're going to, if you decide that that's going to a rescue, that you are looking at a rescue who understands and is honest and forthcoming about the
Mm,
dogs that they have in their care.
Yeah.
yeah.
100%. Yep.
I did not put this question down before, but it is one that has been rolling around in my brain. You had such a great experience with a German Shepherd, and then such a difficult experience with a pit bull. What made you decide to go with a pit bull again?
That's a really good question.
Well, and
Dang.
did you actually look for, because I feel like
Hmm.
Sasha happened to you.
Sasha just happened. I
Okay. Yeah.
remember when we were looking, I had an idea in my head of what I wanted. I wanted a smaller dog, because you guys, I always get stuck with these very big dogs, and I'm not a very
Yeah.
big person.
You're a
And like,
very small lady.
I would love to have a dog that I could just scoop up if there's something going on. Like Evan can easily scoop up Sasha, and I'm over here like, well, uh, you know. So that's a whole thing. But yeah, I think we knew we were going to go with a pit bull just because that is what we know. Volunteering with the shelter so much, we have experienced so many different pit bulls, and we know that there are so many great ones out there.
Mhm.
And we were trying to not look at the looks of the dog and go for more what fits our needs behaviorally, personality wise, all of that. Where before I was like, I need a male pit bull, right? This time I was like, I'd be open to anything. But I think definitely like what Heather was saying, Sasha just kind of happened to us. We just
Mhm.
kind of took her, and I was like, she doesn't body size I was hoping for. She's she's a little bit of a big girl, a little bit bigger than I was hoping for in a dog. But she's our perfect fit. She checked every box otherwise.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's how we ended up. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, yeah. Just that was just something that I was curious about because I know a lot of people, once they have any type of negative experience with a breed, they will say, I will never have this breed again. Like I have a friend who had a lab attacked her corgi. And she
Oh,
had to rehome her corgi because that was the good dog and the easy one to rehome because she felt like that was the only way to keep her dog safe.
Mhm.
And she has said, I will never have a lab again. I will never own another lab after that experience, which is so strange because I'm like, well, labs are not known for aggression.
Yeah.
Like that's not, but because those experiences can stay with you, trauma stacking, so then it can become where you just associate that with the breed
Mhm.
instead of the individual.
Mhm.
yes.
Oh, what a journey you guys have been on. And
Yeah.
and not in a lot of time. I mean, this is
Mm-mm.
literally what, a 10-year span, not even. You have been
Yeah.
on a roller coaster.
You got like 20
Yeah.
years of experience in 5 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she
I
did.
really
They
did.
did.
I really did. Yeah. I went from just a naive, I always considered myself before Odin like experience, not, I don't know if I want to say experience, but I was a dog
You can say
person.
You're a
Like,
experience.
dog person.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like
You
I had,
considered yourself experienced. Yeah.
yeah. At that time, yeah.
Oh, the things we
Now
don't
you're
know.
experienced.
It's a whole thing. And that's why like I try so hard to educate our clients when we're doing photo sessions. All the things. Try to educate. If they bark at us, if they growl, that's fine. Like we're not gonna be upset. It's totally normal. We've had so many of our clients' dogs growl at us because they're like, whoa, what's this thing? And I'm just very, it's okay, it's fine. We're
Well,
just gonna
because you guys are also, you build your sessions to make sure that everyone is safe. So
mhm.
that's a huge part of it too, because of your experience that's brought you here. You build everything to make sure that everyone remains safe at all times. So you don't have to
Yeah,
worry if a dog has some sort of reaction. It's not
yeah,
like you're up in the dog's face. I mean,
right.
it,
Yeah.
it's just not part of what you do. And it's part of
Mm-mm.
why you're good at what you do.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you.
And I will say, because Monica has inspired so many of us to take photos of dogs, and myself included. And because of her experiences with Odin, I've done the backyard photo sessions, and I've put in so many steps. Like, okay, there are 5 different levels of protection here, so that
Yeah.
if you do have a reactive dog, whether it's with people or dogs, we can still do this safely. Of course, Monica did a photo session and there was a loose husky in my neighborhood the day that yeah, so that was fun. But I
I
do
got,
have now, like, because of that, I have a backup plan of, you know what? I have a double wide gate in my
Mhm,
backyard, and an alleyway. You can drive back to the back,
mhm,
and which is something I had discussed with somebody else who had very dog and people reactive dogs. We discussed, okay, so the barrier would be first you would drive back to the back. We would open the double gates and close it with your car inside. So you have that. And then my dog will be behind a gate and then a second gate. So my dog's
Yeah.
inside behind a doggy gate and then a secondary gate. And then the door to the laundry room with the doggy door is closed and there are curtains over the doorway so that even if she gets out of 2 barriers, there would be a third and a fourth barrier
mhm.
for
Yeah.
her. And that all comes from you having Odin and having to think through
Mm,
all of that. And that just trickled down. And I'm like, oh, I can think through that for people
mhm.
so that I
Yes.
can give them assurance that it's going to be safe for
Yeah.
them to still get pictures with their dogs.
Um,
So he's influencing
I
people
love
all over still.
Yeah,
that.
for years into the future.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a lot. We so appreciate you being willing to be vulnerable and really
Mhm.
talk. When we first started thinking about this episode, we thought we were going to talk about you living with a reactive dog and what that looks like. But Odin was so much more than that. And I think that the things that we talked about is so much more important. And
Mhm.
so we really appreciate you just being willing to open up and sort of lay your soul out there for
Mhm.
people to take that in and for us to talk about some difficult stuff.
It's
Yes,
been
thank
good.
you so
It's good
much,
to share.
Monica.
Oh, guys, you're welcome. It's important to talk about this stuff, and I
It
feel
is.
like people don't
It
talk about it enough.
normalizes,
And
yeah, it
yes,
normalizes it and gives people a feeling of camaraderie, that there are other people who are experiencing such difficult stuff, and the more we talk about it, the more that shame can just go into the background.
yes.
Mhm.
If you like this episode, please
Subscribe through your favorite platform, share us, and feel free to rate us as well. And then go over to Instagram at Sometimes There's Side Eye, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. And we'll be linking all of Monica's information in the show notes. And I'm sure we'll be tagging her when we do the promos for the episode. So you guys can connect with her if you're interested in getting to know her or interested in getting photos with your dog. No matter what your dog is comfortable with, I'm sure Monica can accommodate with her and Evan. Thank you so much for being here. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.